The air on the desolate moon of Krylos 7 was thin and cold, carrying with it the faint metallic tang of rusted machinery. The ruins of an ancient alien civilization stretched out in every direction, their jagged silhouettes cutting into the star-strewn sky. It was a place of forgotten history and hidden dangers, the kind of place where only the desperate or the foolish ventured. Lieutenant Kara Voss was neither. She was a seasoned explorer, part of a small human research team sent to investigate the ruins for signs of advanced technology. But tonight, her mission had taken an unexpected turn. She had stumbled upon something, or rather, someone that defied all logic. The alien warrior was massive, standing at least 8 feet tall, with shimmering, iridescent scales that seemed to shift colors in the dim light. His 4 arms were corded with muscle, and his elongated face bore a pair of glowing, slit-pupiled eyes. He was trapped in a web of glowing energy filaments, a high-tech snare that crackled with electricity every time he struggled. Kara froze, her hand instinctively going to the pulse pistol at her side. She had heard stories of the Krylosians, a warrior race known for their brutality and cunning. But this one seemed different. His movements were slow, deliberate, and his eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her heart race. "Human," he growled, his voice deep and resonant. "Release me." Kara hesitated. Every instinct told her to run, to leave this creature to his fate. But something in his voice, a note of desperation, perhaps, gave her pause. She stepped closer, her boots crunching on the brittle ground. "Why should I trust you?" she asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The alien tilted his head, studying her. "Because I am not your enemy. The ones who set this trap are. They seek to destroy us both." Kara frowned. "Who set the trap?" Before he could answer, a low hum filled the air, and the ground beneath her feet began to vibrate. She turned just in time to see a swarm of drones emerging from the shadows, their sleek, insect-like bodies bristling with weapons. They moved with eerie precision, surrounding her and the trapped warrior. "Release me," the alien urged again, his voice more urgent now. "Or we both die." Kara made her decision in an instant. She pulled out her multi-tool and began cutting through the energy filaments, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. The filaments sparked and hissed as they fell away, and the alien roared with relief as he broke free. "Stay close," he commanded, stepping in front of her as the drones opened fire. Kara ducked behind a crumbling pillar, her pulse pistol in hand. She fired off a few shots, but the drones were fast, dodging her attacks with ease. The alien, however, was a whirlwind of destruction. His movements were fluid and precise, his 4 arms wielding weapons she hadn't even seen him draw. He tore through the drones with terrifying efficiency, his scales glowing brighter with each strike. When the last drone fell, the silence was deafening. Kara stepped out from behind the pillar, her heart still pounding. The alien turned to her, his chest heaving, and inclined his head in what she assumed was a gesture of gratitude. "Thank you, human," he said. "You have saved my life." Kara nodded, still trying to process what had just happened. "Who were those drones? And why were they after you?" The alien's expression darkened. "They are the servants of the Void Wraiths, a faction that seeks to dominate the galaxy. They set this trap to capture me, knowing I would come here in search of the artifact." "Artifact?" Kara echoed, her curiosity piqued. The alien hesitated, as if weighing how much to tell her. "It is a relic of my people, one that holds the key to defeating the Void Wraiths. But it is also dangerous in the wrong hands. That is why I must retrieve it before they do." Kara crossed her arms, studying him. "And you expect me to just take your word for it?" The alien's eyes narrowed. "You have already chosen to trust me, human. Or do you regret your decision?" Kara opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, the ground beneath them began to shake violently. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, and the ruins around them started to collapse. "We must go," the alien said, grabbing her arm. "The Void Wraiths are coming." Kara didn't argue. She followed him as he led her through the crumbling ruins, his long strides forcing her to run to keep up. They reached a hidden passageway just as the ground behind them gave way, revealing a massive, glowing rift in the earth. The alien activated a device on his wrist, and a holographic map appeared in the air. "The artifact is deep within these ruins," he said, "but the path is treacherous. Are you willing to accompany me?" Kara hesitated. She had no reason to trust this alien, but something about him, his strength, his determination, made her want to believe him. Besides, she had already come this far. "Lead the way," she said. The journey through the ruins was a blur of narrow passageways, ancient traps, and strange, glowing symbols that seemed to pulse with energy. The alien moved with purpose, his knowledge of the ruins evident in every step. Kara followed closely, her pulse pistol at the ready. As they descended deeper into the ruins, the air grew colder, and the walls seemed to close in around them. Kara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, but every time she glanced over her shoulder, there was nothing there. Finally, they reached a massive chamber, its walls lined with intricate carvings that depicted scenes of battle and triumph. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, and on it rested the artifact, a small, crystalline orb that glowed with an otherworldly light. The alien approached the pedestal, his expression one of reverence. "At last," he murmured, reaching out to take the artifact. But before he could touch it, a voice echoed through the chamber. "Stop!" Kara spun around, her pulse pistol raised. Standing in the entrance to the chamber was a figure clad in dark, flowing robes, their face obscured by a hood. Behind them stood a dozen more drones, their weapons trained on Kara and the alien. "Void Wraith," the alien growled, his voice filled with hatred. The figure stepped forward, their movements smooth and deliberate. "You have done well, Zorith," they said, their voice a chilling whisper. "But your journey ends here." Kara's eyes widened as she turned to the alien, Zorith. "What are they talking about?" she demanded. Zorith didn't answer. Instead, he turned to her, his expression unreadable. "I am sorry, human," he said, "but this was the only way." Before Kara could react, Zorith activated a device on his wrist, and a force field sprang up around her, trapping her inside. She pounded on the barrier, her heart racing with panic and betrayal. "Zorith," she shouted, "what are you doing?" The Void Wraith stepped forward, their hood falling back to reveal a face that was both beautiful and terrifying. "You see, human," they said, "Zorith is one of us. He led you here to ensure the artifact's safety. And now, thanks to your help, it is ours." Kara's mind reeled. She had been played, used as a pawn in a game she didn't understand. She turned to Zorith, her eyes blazing with anger. "You lied to me." Zorith's expression was pained, but he said nothing. Instead, he turned to the Void Wraith and handed them the artifact. "Our deal is complete," he said. "Now release her." The Void Wraith smiled, a cold, cruel smile. "Of course," they said. "We have no further use for her." The force field around Kara deactivated, and she stumbled forward, her pulse pistol still in hand. But before she could raise it, the Void Wraith gestured, and a wave of energy slammed into her, sending her crashing to the ground. "Farewell, human," the Void Wraith said. "You have served your purpose." As the Void Wraith and their drones began to retreat, Zorith turned to Kara, his expression filled with regret. "I am sorry," he said again, "but this was the only way to protect my people." Kara glared at him, her vision blurring as the pain from the energy blast overwhelmed her. You're a monster," she whispered. Zoratha's eyes softened, and for a moment, it seemed as though he might say something more. But then he turned and followed the Void Wraith, leaving Kara alone in the chamber. As darkness closed in around her, Kara's last thought was of the artifact, now in the hands of the Void Wraiths. She had been a fool to trust Zorath, but she vowed that if she survived, she would make him pay for his betrayal. Kara awoke to the sound of voices. She was lying on a soft surface, the pain in her body replaced by a dull ache. She opened her eyes to find herself in a medical bay, surrounded by members of her research team. "Kara," one of them exclaimed, "you're awake." Kara sat up slowly, her mind still reeling from what had happened. How did I get here?" she asked. "We found you in the ruins," another team member said. "You were badly injured, but we managed to stabilize you." "What happened out there?" Kara hesitated, unsure of how much to tell them. But as she looked around at their concerned faces, she knew she couldn't keep it to herself. "I found an alien," she said. "A Krylosian. He used me to retrieve an artifact for the Void Wraiths." Her team exchanged worried glances. "The Void Wraiths?" one of them repeated. "But they're just a myth, aren't they?" Kara shook her head. "They're real. And now they have the artifact." The room fell silent as the gravity of her words sank in. Finally, one of her team members spoke up. "We need to report this to command. If the Void Wraiths are real, then we're all in danger." Kara nodded, her mind already racing with plans. She had been betrayed, but she wasn't going to let Zorath and the Void Wraiths win. She would find a way to stop them, no matter what it took. As her team began to make preparations to leave, Kara's thoughts turned to Zorath. She didn't know why he had betrayed her, but she was determined to find out. And when she did, she would make him regret ever crossing her. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and Kara had just been thrust into the middle of a war she didn't understand. But one thing was certain. She wasn't going to let anyone, alien or otherwise, use her again. Zorath stood on the bridge of the Void Wraiths flagship, the artifact clutched tightly in his hand. The Void Wraith leader approached him, their expression one of satisfaction. "You have done well, Zorath," they said. "With this artifact, we will finally achieve our goal." Zorath nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He couldn't stop thinking about Kara, the human who had trusted him, only to be betrayed. He had done what he had to do, but the guilt weighed heavily on him. As the Void Wraith leader turned to leave, Zorath made a decision. He would find a way to make things right, to protect both his people and the humans from the Void Wraith's tyranny. It wouldn't be easy, but he owed it to Kara and to himself to try. The galaxy was a dangerous place, but Zorath knew that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope. And as long as there was hope, there was a chance for redemption.